Set in the lush and royal country of Zamunda, newly crowned King Akeem and his trusted confidant Simi embark on an all-new hilarious adventure that has them traveling the globe from their great African nation to the borough of Queens, New York, where it all began. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and today we are discussing a sequel to one of my favorite comedies of all time. That's 1988's Coming to America. Today we're talking about the sequel, Coming to America. Got a chance to check it out early, courtesy of Amazon, and I'm gonna let you all know if I thought this was a funny film, if it was a worthy sequel, and if you all should be excited for it when it comes available on Amazon Prime this Friday, March 5th, all in this spoiler-free review. But before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts, which you can find those links in the description below. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel, and while you all are at it, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new early reviews like this. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comment section below, let me know, number one, if you've seen the original Coming to America, because apparently a lot of people haven't seen that comedy classic in my eyes, but let me know if you've seen the classic 1988 Coming to America. And then, of course, once you've seen the sequel, let's discuss it. Did you think it was funny? Did you think it was a worthy sequel? Was it too little, too late? What did you think about Eddie Murphy? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. And also, let me know your favorite Eddie Murphy film. For me, man, I might have to throw in Nutty Professor in the mix, the original Coming to America, Life. You know, Eddie Murphy has a great filmography. So let me know your favorite Eddie Murphy film in the comment section. So again, this is a film that's coming out 30 years later. This isn't just a film coming out 30 years later. This is a comedy, which we know comedy is very subjective. We know 1988 comedies are much different from 2021 comedies, right? So did it land? Did the comedy feel neutered because it was PG-13, not rated R? Well, let's get into it, starting off with the positives. First and foremost, let me just touch on that point. It is PG-13. 1988 was a rated R film, and we'll get to what I think about the jokes, and was it raunchy, and was it neutered? We'll get to that a little bit later, but I have to say this. If you go into this film with this particular lens, this is more of a family-friendly, feel-good story than it is more so a comedy. Don't get me wrong, the 1988 had feel-good moments. It had a coming-of-age story. It had a good life lessons within the film, right? But it also was rated R, and it deserved that rating. In this film, again, going into this being that this is 2021, this is a family-friendly Eddie Murphy businessman, has kids, has a wife, all that. He's a different person. Comedy's also very different. Again, you can say one thing and get canceled. You can say this and have a whole bunch of people protesting to boycott your film. So it's a very different climate that we're in. And again, I appreciate this film for breaking the mold in the sense of this is 2021 and not the 80s, so it plays into this is a different time, right? The film plays into traditions, old traditions, being kind of archaic and not being, you know, a man has to be the king. You have to marry into this family for political gain. So I like how the film addresses the fact that it's 30 years later and things are much different than what they were 30 years ago. So I appreciate that aspect of the film, which also brings me into the fact that as someone that loves comedies and loves movies in general, I like to see actors having fun on screen. Now, fun doesn't always mean funny, but you can tell when actors are just having a good time on set, having a good laugh. This is one of those movies, too. This isn't much of a spoilers, but this is one of those movies that it shows you the behind the scenes and when they're like in between cuts and when they have bloopers. And you can just see within those bloopers and in between scenes that they're just having a fun time. Certain characters coming back from the originals, new characters, meeting these people that they probably grew up with loving, like Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall and everyone that was from the original cast. So I like to see actors having fun because it makes me have fun. And you can tell when some of the actors are just like, oh, they don't want to be here. They're mailing in their performance. You're not getting any of that in this film, which brings me into the man, the myth, the legend, one of my favorite comedians, one of my favorite entertainers of all time. I mean, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, you know, Dave Chappelle, those are like the Mount Rushmore for me. They're like on another plane in regards to entertainers. For me personally, this is a different Eddie. Again, I mentioned this isn't 1988. This isn't 1983's Delirious Eddie. This isn't 1987's Raw Eddie. This isn't 1988's Coming of Age Eddie. This is the businessman. This is the family man. He's lived 30 plus years in the industry, more than 30 plus years in the industry, right? Almost 40, almost 45 years. It's a different time. It's a different Eddie, and I appreciate that. Now, saying that, This isn't the family-friendly Eddie from Meet Dave or some of those other movies that we got in the early 2000s, but this is kind of that in-between Eddie. This is that Dolomite Is My Name Eddie, which I love that film, and him collaborating with the same director here. It's a different type of Eddie. It isn't the same raunchiness. It isn't the same delirious or raw, but it's a new Eddie. It's not necessarily better Eddie, but it's a more mature Eddie. And I appreciate that transformation in Eddie Murphy. And I still think he has it. In this role as Akeem, he still has the charm. He still has the charisma. We'll talk about the jokes a little bit later, but I felt like Eddie still has that magic for me. I'm excited to see what he does next, whether it be a comedy special they've been talking about for years for Netflix or another film. Hopefully he doesn't. We'll talk about sequels a little bit, but hopefully Eddie gets back into the swing of things because I love Eddie Murphy. So I'll say for me, I feel like Eddie still has the magic. And then going into some of the newcomers to this cast, I thought that someone like Tracy Morgan, KiKi Layne, Wesley Snipes, they were welcoming additions to this cast. And we'll talk about some of the other additions that didn't work for me, but I like them in their roles in this film. And then I got to give a shout out to the Oscar-winning costume designer, Ruth E. Carter. The costumes were on point, as they always are when she's involved in it. And I thought the costumes were on point. And it also brings me into another production side of this film. Got to talk about the director, Craig Brewer, who, again, he worked with Eddie Murphy a couple years ago with Dolomite My Name. This is a big task. This is a director coming into a franchise, a beloved franchise. I love 1988's classic comedy coming to America. A lot of big shoes to fill. And I thought that for the most part, Craig did a solid job in the direction share. So those are my pros. Let's switch into the cons. So I mentioned that I had fun for the most part, but that doesn't always mean fun doesn't always mean funny. And for me, I did not find this film to be funny. And I'm not one of those people that always blame things on ratings. But in this case, the PG-13, it worked for the family-friendly, acknowledging, changing the genders in regards to, a queen versus a king, all that stuff. I appreciate that. But in regards to the comedy, it was neutered. It was a lot of moments in this film where I felt like they want to bring in some of the original. I won't talk about all the cameos and some of the original people that may or may not make their way into this film, but I found like when they brought in those original comedy people, like the barbershop crew, and I'll just leave it at that because that's in a trailer. I felt like they tried to recapture some of the comedy from 30 years ago, and it just didn't work for me personally, and it felt very PG-13 in regards to the comedy moments. I think of moments of the jokes that were brought in from like the 2020 jokes, right? The fleek, it's on fleek, it's lit, all that stuff kind of felt forced for me in the comedy realm. And again, when it comes to mixing in the original characters with the new characters and the new jokes and the more crowd-friendly, family-friendly jokes, it just didn't work for me in the comedy realm, which going into the story beats a little bit, they're definitely retracing a lot of the same beats from the original without getting to the spoilers, but it really involves, Eddie Murphy's son in this film, played by Jermaine Fowler, who is the long-lost son that he didn't know he didn't have, and that is just a trope for Hollywood, any film, right? Star Wars is, there's a kid. The new James Bond supposedly is going to be a kid involved. You always see Hollywood bringing in, they got to bring a sequel back because they have a kid now. But when it comes to Jermaine Fowler as his son, that stuff to me, Jermaine Fowler, Leslie Jones, they did not work for me in this movie at all in regards to their jokes, their storylines, and particularly Jermaine Fowler having this love interest, which again retraces the original Coming to America. All that storyline took away from the magic. It took away from Eddie and Arsenio Hall, which I gotta say, Arsenio Hall as Simi, he did not work for me in this movie. The chemistry between him and Eddie, it was there at points, but then we went away from those moments because we had to focus on Jermaine Fowler and him falling in love, which again, all that stuff was just forced to me, and it took away from just that, the chemistry from Eddie and the original crew, and it's just like we spent so little time with the original crew and tried to implement the new crew. It just didn't mix all that well for me personally. And then lastly, again, when it comes into this almost being 2 hours, I should say, the pacing's off. It's a chunk of this movie, like kind of in the middle. Again, the love story that Jermaine Fowler goes through just fell flat. And that's where the second half of this film just kind of took a bit of a snooze fest for me personally. But those are some of my criticisms. Before I give you my overall thoughts and give you my score of this film, make sure if you haven't already to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments once you've seen the film, and of course, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. With that being said, let me give you my overall thoughts and my score for Coming to America. So overall, this film could have been 2014's Dumb and Dumber or 2016's Zoolander 2, in which comedies had felt like they were 15 years too late. But instead, this film has some charm from the original and adds in some new family-friendly moments throughout. Eddie isn't Eddie from 30 years ago, but instead he's something new. He wants to embrace the times and wants to embrace his age and not try to relive the 80s. You can tell that the cast was having fun. Necessarily, it wasn't funny, but they were having fun. Some of the jokes, unfortunately, were played out. The PG-13 rating to me felt like it was neutered and took away some of the raunchy moments that we got from the original. Most of the new characters felt forced to me and underwhelming. This film isn't terrible, but it also doesn't ruin the original for me. So at the end of the day, I'll give Coming to America a solid 3 out of 5. Now, with that 3, is nothing I'm going to probably revisit anytime soon. I'm going to probably watch the original and watch the new one kind of back to back, because I haven't watched the original in probably about a year or two. I want to kind of not go into the movie with the original on my mind in regards to, oh, it better do this, it better have this. But for the most part, it has fun. It has, I love seeing Eddie on screen and him having that charisma again. But again, the jokes just really didn't work for me. And the new characters, again, Jermaine Fowler, Leslie Jones, all that love story, all those jokes just fell flat for me. But again, I found some fun and found some enjoyment from this watch. So was it a worthy sequel? Yes and no, but I would say that you all should give it a watch. Lower the expectations. Again, go into this film knowing that it is family friendly and it's not so comedy raunchy rated R. It's more PG-13. So go into it with that. You might enjoy it a little bit more. But when you see the film, let me know what you thought of it, your pros, your cons. Did you find it to be funny? Did you find it like me to be a little bit underwhelming with some of those new characters? Let's discuss it in the comments. As always, make sure to like the video, share the video. Again, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Right now, we got videos for Chaos Walking. We have videos coming out for Riot and The Last Dragon, WandaVision. So much to look forward to, and I hope you all enjoying the content. Hope you're having a great day. We'll see you on the next video.